Pred vama je priča o civilizacijskoj državi, sistemu građenom hiljadama godina pod čijim krovom danas živi više od milijardu ljudi. Ovo je pogled na svet iz ugla čoveka koji je osetio težinu kulturne revolucije, a zatim iz neposredne blizine svedočio rađanju moderne supersile. Gost emisije je profesor Džang Vejvej, jedan od najuticajnijih kineskih intelektualaca današnjice i nekadašnji lični prevodilac vizionara Denga Sjaopinga. Zapadna javnost ga često posmatra kroz prizmu nerazumevanja, ali on se ne ustručava da uđe u debatu sa najvećim misliocima. Otvoreno poručuje da je zapadni politički sistem zarobljen u prošlosti i podsjeća da je važno učenje od najvećih snaga, otkrivajući večeras i šta su to tačno kineski reformatori 80. godina dolazili da uče u beogradskim robnim kućama. Da li je jezička rascepkanost najveća kočnica Evrope u tehnološkoj trci? Kako će izgledati planeta do 2050. godine i kako u novom, multipolarnom poretku Srbija može da sačuva svoj nezavisni kurs i bistar um? Sledi drugi deo ovog ekskluzivnog intervjua. Uživajte.
I would like to ask you this differences, so that this kind of 2,000, 3,000 year old civilizational
identity.
Let's say identity of the whole of the people of China. Maybe that's why we have always something that the China and the West are talking past to each other, somehow not understanding each other.
That's true.
Could be the explanation or part of the explanation.
As I coined the phrase civilizational state, I use that analogy. If Roman Empire has continued
until
to
now,
this day, say the size of whole Europe, with unified written language called Latin, with whatever different dialects, and with the supermodern economy, that will be a civilizational state. But we all know it's impossible. As you said, it's more recent.
Total different context.
Totally different. In the case of China, if you perceive China from civilizational state perspective, then you will see many mainstream Western views on China is indeed very weak. For instance, the Western idea of a state, if you want to become modern state, it must be a nation state. If it's a nation state, it must be ruled by the people. Why rule by people? Democracy, multi-party system, and one person, one vote. But for civilizational state, it's already unified 221 BC over the past 2,200 years. Of these 2,200 years, maybe 85 to 90% of time, China was a more advanced and bigger economy than the whole Europe. And then, so it's a civilization, it's totally different. The sense of legitimacy. For Chinese, you can't imagine, see, every 4 years, every 5 years, you change the central government. No, the country will broke up immediately. And for a country like China, how can you have winners take all? 51% will defeat 49%. It's a 1.4 billion people. If it's a 10% disagreement, it is 110 million people. It's not the way to do things. It has to be, we call consultative democracy. You have to consult people. In the end, reach consensus. So the size matters,
Of course.
European nation state, you can trade the whole democracy system, go to the ancient Greece, Athens tradition, whatever. By that time, the Athens city-states were very small. By Chinese standards, they were simply, village or small town, 100,000 people maximum. But China was already a huge country in 2,000 years ago. And as a result, it has its own traditions, and we should respect that tradition. And Deng Xiaoping's theory is basically, if there is something in the tradition, we should understand this is a tradition. You cannot get rid of it. but you can make best use of it. Same with globalization. If you look at difference between Deng Xiaoping and Gorbachev, at that time the globalization pushed by the West, by United States in particular, was a comprehensive globalization. It's about democratization, privatization, marketization. So I said the political globalization and economic globalization. But for Deng Xiaoping, it's very clear, economic globalization, yes. Political globalization, no.
Or in a way, the political, to be allowed to have the different political systems should be a part of
That's
the,
true.
Should be a part of the equation.
That's true.
And so, do you think maybe that Europe, in all the fragmented stations, or let's say states that we are now living in, but still as a project, having in mind the past and civilizational, let's say, core of the Europe, has a chance, let's say, from 100 years from now, to talk about, to say to me that we are sitting in Europe, we were like, like very fragmented back then, but
that's true.
Actually there is something which is Europe.
Yeah. Now, the challenge for Europe is, in the case of China, if you look at China history, China unified its writing system 2,200 years ago. We use the same writing system. So that helps the unity of the Chinese state. If the Europeans have continued with the Latin writing system or spoken Latin, then it will be much more consolidated, because linguistic tradition is so important for a culture.
Yes.
You speak different languages, then you have differences in one way or another, very different. So that's a challenge for Europe. You have over 20 languages in the EU. How can you be united whole? It's a challenge.
This is also still what we see in the development between, for example, China and India, where in India with so many languages, which are official languages, it's still very difficult to achieve this kind of momentum of economic growth there now. Of course, growing a lot, and there is a huge development in India, but something which is, you're obviously right about this aspect of the linguistic aspect about the language in the development of the entity plays a huge role.
Furthermore, Europe has, you cannot say made a mistake, but it has to do with European fragmented situation. Because the new industrial revolution is more or less an evolution of the internet economy. And the internet economy has to do with the size of the population speaking the same language. So for the Chinese, it's the market of 1.4 billion people. For America, if they use English, it's even more people. As a result, China and the United States have highly developed internet economies. Europe has lost in that. So this loss is costly, because if you still don't have your own internet companies, huge platforms based on your own languages, then it will be very difficult to catch up in terms of AI revolution. So this is so now we look back, this unification of China, unification of Chinese language became so important in the modern time. And then one negative example from our point of view is Europeans' division in different languages.
This is true, and maybe, who knows, we are seeing now how the artificial intelligence and the models are also changing this approach to the language, so that we are more and more, getting closer to each other. Even being in China and having the live translators.
With the simultaneous interpreter.
Not only that, now you can really hear it, and this is something that will, I think, shape the world in this linguistic part. I think much more than we can predict now, because we are all thinking in languages that we are speaking. But in that kind is that something will change, I think. But let us go, because now we are starting with a new period, and this is something which is actually very interesting in your scope of work. That you are, let's say, not only the professor, but really an influencer. Let's use the language of the Gen Z. Do you think that communication is now really let's say on itself became the form of power, or the form of doing your job right?
Yeah, it's so important to have a certain communication capability, especially for China as a whole. Despite China's tremendous achievements, China's economy has increased over 300-fold in nominal terms, and 50 times bigger in real terms. Yet in the Western media, which is still predominant in much of the world today, China was portrayed as autocracy, dictatorship, and violation of human rights, and even genocide.
Talking about this kind of, we're communicating past each other.
Yeah, so I said it's not only past each other, it's deliberate misunderstanding, because you are led by so-called communist party, you are a communist country, you are evil. This is something we feel just disgusting, because Chinese philosophy for the whole success story of Chinese revolution and Chinese reform opening up is called the seeking truth for facts. You have to be extremely serious about facts and not dogmatic. So even up to a few months ago, if you look at the mainstream media, China has no ability for innovation. Chinese educational system is rote memory, and Xinjiang has a massacre of people, stupidity to the extreme. So we are just very much not disappointed, angered by this.
Somewhere I read a book about very, very good. I forgot the name of the author. About it's a Chinese academic who is teaching also in the American universities about the main differences between the Chinese, let's say, success and American success in the way that the American is a state of lawyers, and the China is a state of engineers.
That's true.
Both have their good and the bad sides. It's not always everything good, but what made the China really what it is today is actually, and that is what he's arguing, this kind of learning the process knowledge and keeping the process knowledge of the innovation in hands and developing it. In contrary to the United States, where this process knowledge went away, also through globalization. It's very interesting idea.
No, I'm a bit, critical of the U.S. political system, because I think the system is very backward. I said this many, many years ago. I already used the term post-American era back in the 2006 something, and I said after I traveled a lot. So by the year 2006, I've traveled to over 100 countries. I began to write articles for New York Times. In one piece, I said the U.S. model will not work in developing countries. And about 15 years back, I said U.S. model will not even work for the United States or for the West.
This is the concepts that are, thinking about the concept which are set in stone. Let's say, not thinking through and developing the concepts further, because we are living at a different time that we lived not 10 years ago, but 6 months ago. So basically, we need to also to rethink it. It is also what many people would say about Europe. You need also to Europe to rethink itself. It's not means that it's a bad concept. It's a great concept. It brought the Europe 70 years of peace. But we need to catch up how we manage this concept together. Is it our own, or is it somebody pushed us in this concept? How we relate to others, China, even to the United States. This is something that always has to be some kind rethought, rethink. discussed?
For China, we are from a culture that values learning, and learning from history, learning from positive and negative lessons of our own and other countries. I told you, I came to Yugoslavia in 1985.
Yeah.
We came here to study Yugoslavia's experience
As a success.
as a success story for economic reforms. And we went to this, the largest department store in Belgrade.
Beograđanka.
Yeah. And because he tried to have this reform of the system, purchasing, marketing, etc. All very new for China. The Chinese philosophy is, if you are good in whatever way, we should try to learn from you. And even you should learn from your opponents, from your enemies, if they have certain aspects good. As Confucius said famously, if we are with another two individuals, three people together, two of them can be your teacher. So also try to find something positive. But vis-a-vis China, especially the United States and the Western countries in general, they take such a arrogant attitude. You have nothing.
It's interesting thought, also for our audience, that you came end of the 80s, let's say, to learn about experience or like success story of Yugoslavia at that time, which was a socialistic country, but with a very liberal and liberalized market also at that time. And you went back and replicated a very good model, adapted to your economy. We failed maybe in the developing and learning about our own history, but now we are where we are, and maybe it is a good bridge to today's experiences and your presence here in Serbia. What basically you and I are doing more or less similar things, but on a very, very different scales. You are explaining China to the world. I'm trying, in my role as president of the Serbian Chamber of Commerce, to explain Serbia to it. It's 6 million people, geographically Western, militarily neutral, economically deeply tied to EU, but also very tied economically, a very good relation to China. It's about 6 billion of infrastructure loans alone from China. We are also in full membership in the Belt and Road Initiative. From your office in Shanghai, what does Serbia looks like? Is it a special case or the future of a small European state?
No, for Chinese, because even young people today have a lot of interest or even passion for the story of former Yugoslavia, by extrapolation for Serbia today. If you look at, I was in the Museum of Yugoslavia yesterday. Because I was there 4 decades ago. I was there again. And half of the tourists are from China visiting the museum. But people still have this memory. And they want to see how it was like through this museum. Tito was well known. Yugoslavian movies and the music are still popular with young people in China today. And especially Chinese young generation today is very much socialistic. As a result, they like this, Tito style, whatever. So Yugoslavia, a lot of soft power from Yugoslavia remains in the minds of Chinese today. So this is a very important asset. I told our guide in the museum, I said, you should expand a bit the section on China, Yugoslavia, as one way to attract more Chinese tourists to your museum, to Yugoslavia, or to Serbia. I understand, Serbia is a relatively small country, and for a small country, it's not easy to maintain its independence. But independence is so important. Without independence, you lose everything. So I talked with your friend Wook, your former foreign minister, and I said, I agree with your 4-pillar policies on friendship terms with EU, Russia, China, United States. A kind of neutrality, a kind of non-alignment. I think this is crucial for a small country like Serbia. At the same time, also consulting, as I have worked for Chairman Denga Sjaopinga. Deng famously said, be friends with everyone, but remain clear-headed, clear-minded.
Yeah, that is true. Of course, it is not an easy way for a 6 million country to build its own narrative, as China is doing. So we are still living in a logic, what is allowed to Jupiter is not allowed to the ox. Yeah. But basically, having in mind that, and also speaking with my friend Vuk, our joint friend, he's maybe a little bit more skeptical. I'm still living and believing in the European idea as a whole, as a structure. How we fill it in, it's on us. It's on the Europe to fill it in. And maybe now it's some kind of time where Europe could be on the crossroads to fill its own narrative about many nations living on one continent, having extraordinary relations with other partners, not being extremely connected to just one, which was the United States in this part, but being on its own and working with China very well. So what could be possible is maybe that Europe developed in the time now this kind of confidence to work out its own story, its own European story about how to work with China or how to work with others.
That's what China hopes Europe will become. And China is the only large country that has always supported European integration and support the cause of EU for more integrated development. So this is very important. We hope that in the multipolar world, Europe will represent one pole rather than just a vessel for the United States, which is not good. But as you mentioned, at this particular moment, in the past few years, has demonstrated EU leadership is weak, and for one reason or another, they failed to live up to the expectations of many Europeans, including many Serbians. That's my purpose. So I think EU should move in the direction you represent. Be friends with everyone, and be really aware of its own interests, different from Russia, from the United States, from China, its own interest. And then respecting each other, learning from each other. That would be the best way.
It's a very, very interesting point. But on my last question or final, if we look to 2050, and what do you think, who will shape the world? States, corporations, ideas, or AI? And leaving for a second aside the answer for the moment, what world do you want your grandchildren to walk into?
Whatever the outcome for the 50 years to come, I think what's more important is to have a kind of right international order. Today we talk about from unipolarity to multipolarity, from unipolar world order to multipolar world order. That's far more important. But you have a right order, from Chinese point of view, mutual respect, win-win cooperation, not big bullying the small, not strong bullying the weak. This is not allowed, and people help each other. In Xi Jinping's words, a shared community of mankind. We really support that. And fortunately, indeed, not because I'm Chinese, I have slight Chinese bias. In many ways, thanks to China, the world has become slightly brighter in terms of future. For instance, without China's eradicating of extreme poverty, there will be more poverty than ever before. Without China's contribution to climate change, fighting climate change and renewable energy, it will be negative. So now there's a good chance to combat this whatever climate change with renewable energy. Without China's DeepSeek, open sourced, AI will be forever monopoly of the Silicon Valley for the super rich. Now the Chinese philosophy is AI should be working for all the ordinary people in each and every village in China, in the world. And also, China now has powerful defense capability, but this capability is for peace, including peace in Serbia. So this is very helpful, As a result, I think we could have a better world order based on mutual respect, respecting sovereignty, respect for different civilizations, respect for different cultures, and then engage in win-win cooperation. If that's the case, then whatever it's corporations, state, NGOs, or new ideas, or AI, whatever, it doesn't matter, so long as you have a good order. That's my conclusion.
Very good conclusion. Thank you very much for being with me tonight and today. And I wish you a great time in Belgrade.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will regularly come back, and I hope we will see the world that you are imagining coming, and that our grandchildren will live in some better place than we are now.
Yeah, so let's end this fascinating conversation with a slight optimistic note.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nikada do sada nisam radio Čadež tips iz 2 dela, ali ova tema zaista zaslužuje priču u nastavcima. Ne zato što je to još samo jedan AI model, već zato što pokazuje da veštačka inteligencija ulazi u jednu novu eru ili novu zonu cyber bezbednosti. Ulazi u trku između onih koji napadaju i onih koji se brane. Šta je mitos? Pun naziv je Cloud Mythos Review. To je novi, još uvek javno nedostupan frontier model kompanije Anthropic. Razvijen je kao opšti AI model, ali se pokazao izuzetno sposobnim u osetljivom polju, pronalaženje bezbednostnih ranjivosti u softveru. Mitos može da pronađe ozbiljne propuste u operativnim sistemima, broserima, otvorenom kodu i zatvorenim softverskim okruženjima. Prema testovima, model je pronašao 1000 ranjivosti visokog rizika, uključujući i propuste stare 10, 20, pa i više godina. Zato mitos nije pušten u javnu upotrebu. Umesto toga, Anthropic je pokrenuo Project Glasswing, program u kome ograničeni broj velikih tehnoloških kompanija, finansijskih institucija i organizacija otvorenog koda koristi mitos za odbranu i popravljanje svojih softvera. Među partnerima su AWS, Apple, Cisco, Google, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft i Linux Foundation. Mitos nije samo još jedan AI alat, on je upozorenje. Softver koji koristimo svakog dana ima rupe koje će AI sve lakše pronalaziti i napadati. Pitanje više nije da li će AI promeniti cyber bezbednost, nego ko će ga prvi koristiti, napadači ili branioci. Da li sam vas uplašio? Ako jesam, to je samo još jedan dokaz da ste radoznali, a takvi i ostanite i vidimo se sledeće nedelje.